What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. It's Thursday, so time for another player breakdown. Last week's most requested breakdown was among mid-round tight ends, Hockenson, Dallas Goedert, and Zach Ertz. So we'll break down that trio today, and you can let me know who you want to see next week in the comment section below. Upvote the responses you agree with the most. I will do the ones that get voted on the most. One quick reminder before we start is the giveaway. Follow the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Give a rating, a review, screenshot that, tweet it at me. I'll pick 3 winners that'll get all in access for the website. And if you already have that, I will refund it. All right, so let's talk about some tight ends. We're going to start off with TJ Hockenson in this one. He's going to be entering his 4th season in the NFL, having just turned 25 this July. He's steadily increased his receiving yards per game in each season, 31 to 45 to 49. His catch rate, 54%, 66 to 73. And then his fantasy production, the one that we care about the most, in points per game, half PPR scoring, 5.4 to 8.9 to 9.6 last season, ultimately finishing 6th in half PPR points per game last year. Unfortunately, he injured his thumb week 13, required surgery to fix, thus ending his season. But had a really nice start to last year before getting hurt. This year, going to enter the season fully healthy. The main question people have is, how will this offense look when everyone is healthy? You know, once they have Hockenson, Swift, St. Brown, Williams, all on the field and playing, what is the target share going to look like? And to be honest, no one actually knows until we see it happen over the first few weeks. And that's the first few weeks that everyone is healthy, right? First few weeks of the actual season, it's unlikely they have Jameson Williams. So we might not know the answer to this question until like week 10, which is kind of crazy to think about. I'll say this though, Hockenson averaged 9.6 fantasy points per game while Swift and St. Brown were both healthy last season. And even though Williams is a phenomenal talent, he's not going to be like a target hog when he does return. And like I alluded to before, he's probably not coming back until around week 7. And so we're not assuming that all of a sudden week 7 rolls around, he's getting 10, 12 targets per game, right? This offense is also expected to be better overall this season. And so while I do think that we're going to see a drop in target share for Hockenson from the numbers that he had in 2021, I don't think that's the end of the world if maybe they increase their passing volume because they have more confidence in the passing attack. They know they have a great passing attack. And so when everyone's healthy, of course they're going to have, a higher percent of passes than rushers than they had in the past. And also they might just be better. When you've got better players and a better system, you might just be more efficient, and that can make up for a lower target share. In 2020, he had an 18% target share and a 22.5% red zone share. Those numbers jumped to 21% and 24% respectively last season. Before making this video, I had him projected at a 17% target share and an 18% red zone share. So that would be his worst volume share since his rookie season. And to be honest, I think those are relatively conservative numbers. The odds that he goes out there and gets like 3 targets per game is incredibly low. And if I bump him down anymore, then I'm putting him in the same range as DJ Chark on the offense. And I don't want to do that, right? It's not like Chark is at, 16% right now. But if I'm bumping down Hockenson, I really can't raise Swift anymore. I have him at a high share. And I have very respectable shares for St. Brown. I have him above ADP in projection. Pretty good share for Williams, especially considering he's not even be on the field to start the season. And so I'm giving this to like Chark and the backup tight ends. I don't want to make them incredible picks. So I think I'm being relatively conservative. I can't bump it down that much more. And then we consider even his rookie season, right? Rookie tight ends never do anything. He had a 14% target share and a 13.5% red zone share. So that feels like his absolute floor, and I would genuinely be shocked if he actually hit that. And so giving him 17 and 18%, significant drops down from the last 2 seasons. Honestly, I think I'm being very conservative with the numbers, and they still project him really well. And so I feel very confident in that. On to Goedert. Goedert will be entering his 5th season in the NFL. turning 28 next January. So he's kind of like right in that optimal range for tight ends. And he's also been getting better in every season. He's trending up as well as Hockenson. He increased his yards per reception from 10.1 to 10.5, 11.4, and then 14.8 last season. His yards per game from 21 to 41 to 48 to now 55.3 last season. And his fantasy production as well, the one we care about, 4.6, 7.7, 8.5, up to 9.1 last season. So a little bit behind the pace that Hockenson is at, but not too far behind that. In terms of target share for him, Dallas Goedert is also behind Hockenson. He was down at 8% as a rookie, but he's been working his way up ever since. Finished last season at 18.6% overall, 12% in the red zone. And honestly, he has the exact same concerns as Hockenson. The Eagles traded for A.J. Brown in the offseason, who is an established alpha wide receiver and will absolutely be getting a higher target share than Jalen Reagor, right? That is going to happen. Fortunately for Goedert, though, I expect the Eagles to be more pass heavy this season, so a lower target share might end up being fine. It is a very similar situation to the Lions. I just think the Eagles look at themselves and they're like, okay, well, last season made sense to run it. They were open the season really pass heavy. It did not work. Reagor was worse than expected. Quez Watkins was about as expected. We were never expecting him to be that fantastic. And so you really only have Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, who are really good, but as a rookie for Devonta Smith, like that's a lot to ask him to just carry the entire passing offense. But you add in a true number one in A.J. Brown, and everything changes. And so while that's going to hurt the potential target share of Dallas Goedert, if they like to throw the ball more as a result, and they become more efficient in throwing the ball as a result as well, then that's going to be positive. But here's why I feel a little bit better about Hockenson's target share. If I had to rank, all of the wide receivers on these two teams, I would have A.J. Brown first. I would have Devonta Smith second. And so if they have like the two most talented players, then you have to be a little bit more concerned about Dallas Goedert taking a little bit step back in that target share. I love St. Brown. I think Williams is a great prospect, but I don't think you can put either of them ahead of A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith right now. And while Swift is obviously going to command a target share, like a higher target share than the Eagles running backs, I'm projecting there to just be more targets overall for Detroit, and that's why I'm just less concerned about Hockenson. Also, I have them virtually tied in total plays run this season, but even though I'm expecting the Eagles to be more pass heavy overall, like what they were last season, when we compare it to Detroit, Detroit's still going to throw the ball at a higher rate than them. Detroit's going to be more pass heavy in the red zone, and their quarterback also isn't going to take like 8 to 10 rushing touchdowns himself. So I'm projecting Goedert for a lower target share than Hockenson on a lower volume passing offense, and I have less faith in the touchdown ceiling given their respective situations. And so, as you can tell, I'm going to have Hockenson beating out Dallas Goedert in this comparison, and I don't think it's all that close. When I'm on the clock and those two are there, I have not even really been considering Dallas Goedert. I just think the ceiling for Hockenson is so much more clear, and I honestly feel better about the floor as well. But what about Zach Ertz? Ertz will be entering his 10th season in the NFL, turning 32 this November. If he was a running back, you'd be incredibly concerned about his durability at this point. But tight ends age much better than running backs, better than wide receivers. So while age is something to keep in mind, I wouldn't use it as a reason to avoid him. Ertz is obviously not ascending at this point in his career. At 32 years old, players don't really start to ascend. So that win goes to Hockenson and Goedert. We don't know what their true ceilings are because they're still kind of reaching that. We know what the true ceiling is for Zach Ertz, but he doesn't really need to be ascending. In their 7 combined seasons so far, Hockenson and Goedert have just one season total combined among the 7 over 90 targets. And we compare that to Ertz, who has at least 100 targets in 6 of his 9 career seasons. Now, he's obviously not as efficient as he once was. He's not as efficient even as Hockenson or Goedert. But even for as bad as he looked at times last season and definitely the season before, he was barely below his career yards per reception, yards per target, all that stuff, catch rate. He took a step back last year, but it wasn't a significant drop off from what he's been doing throughout his career. Because I absolutely agree that Zach Ertz has looked bad for 2 straight seasons, and his 2020 numbers in particular were terrible. But he was fine, honestly, when he joined the Cardinals, and you have to expect that, 1 calendar year isn't going to have him drop off a cliff. So while he's not the player he used to be, I don't expect him to go out there and look like the 2020 Zach Ertz on the Eagles. That was really, really bad. I don't think he's going to be that bad this season. I think we can kind of expect to see exactly what we did when he was on the Eagles last year. And if we're talking about target shares, then we have to at least mention that even in his awful 2020 season, he was at 19%, and he hasn't been below 20% in the red zone target share since 2015. On top of that, he had a massive snap share last season. He hovered in the upper 70% in like the first month to month and a half that he was on the Cardinals. But from week 14 on, he played 83, 89, 97, 91, 92, 95% of the snaps. And it was clear that they trusted him out there, and he averaged 9 targets per game over that stretch. But here is why I can't rank him over Hockenson or Dallas Goedert. Even given all of that, he was more than a point per game worse than Hockenson in half PPR scoring, slightly behind Dallas Goedert last season. And while Hockenson and Goedert are facing more competition, so is Ertz. Sure, Hopkins is suspended to start the year, but he'll be back after 6 weeks. And when he does return, they're going to have him at the top. They're going to have Marquise Brown, who's an upgrade over Kirk in my eyes. They're going to have Rondale Moore probably getting more volume than he has been, but also Trey McBride. Remember, they used a 2nd-round pick on the #1 tight end prospect in the draft class. And while rookie tight ends can never be relied on in fantasy, they can certainly take snaps away from existing tight ends, and they can cap a player's target ceiling. McBride is a fantastic receiving tight end. He is incredibly athletic, and it's going to be very hard for the Cardinals to keep him off the field this season, which means that the target share that Ertz had been seeing in the past, that is probably not coming back. And as much as his numbers have barely declined in Arizona last season, you can clearly see a drop-off in his play. At this point in his career, Ertz just needs a higher target share, high-end volume to produce in fantasy. He's not going to go out there and be efficient. And especially when Hopkins returns, I just don't see the volume being there this season. So I would much rather take a shot on an athletic, ascending tight end than, a declining one in Ertz. So my final ranking among these 3, Hockenson first, Goedert second, Ertz third. Please remember to say what breakdown you want to see next week in the comment section below and upvote the responses you agree with. And remember to take part in the giveaway. Follow the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave a rating and review. Screenshot that. Tweet it at me. 3 people are going to get all-in access to the website or get their purchase, if they already have that, refunded. I'll be back tomorrow to go over the FFA and ETR fade list. Saturday to go over the biggest risers and followers of the last week. And then Sunday to talk about my favorite draft strategies on Underdog. That, my friends, is the end of this one. Hope you all enjoy. If you did, how about hitting that like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.